Asked about the highlights. Let's take a look at them. We started off a good clean start from everyone. Max Neukirchner was the hare. He took the lead, followed closely by Max Biaggi, then Corsa and Haga. So the two Yamahas, the Sterile Garda Ducati, and there you can see Bayliss. He was what, down in 7th, 8th position. Tardozzi watching on as bit by bit he grounded out. Corsa took the lead. Massimo or Maio Marigali watching on. Here come Bayliss. That was the first move. First of all on Nieto, getting up to 5th place at that point and starting to catch this group of 4, led by Max Neukirchner. That was the big moment. Haga going off and waving at Max Biaggi, who had just backed off when Corsa had backed off slightly, and that led to a literally concertina effect. Haga taking his hand off, waving at Biaggi for no apparent reason and falling off. That was the big moment. Then came Bayliss, and look at him, already up to 2nd place within several laps, and then finally into the lead with a very bold move on Neukirchner, but then going wide, the first of several moments that we thought that the former 2-time world champion would be off in the desert, but no. Neukirchner, and there you see, look at that, calm down. You're doing fine, calm down. You don't need to speak Italian to understand that. Max Biaggi then picked it up and took the lead. Biaggi leading from Neukirchner, another big moment for the man Bayliss, now in 4th place, but suddenly straight back up to 3rd, up the inside of Corsa and chasing down Neukirchner. Corsa going past Neukirchner as well, and Neukirchner having probably the ride of his life, a great result from him, but eventually being upset and upstaged, if you like, as Bayliss went wide again. Tardozzi couldn't look. Finally, Zaus coming through on Neukirchner to also get into the top 4. Then it was a two-way battle. Tardozzi shaking his head in absolute bewilderment, as we all were, and then Biaggi shaking his head as he couldn't believe that finally the big man came through. He took him again but had to go wide. A look over the shoulder from the maestro said, "Hey Max, yeah, you might have thought you got it, but I took you on the last bend, on the last lap, to take an historic first victory for Ducati at Losail, and the first victory in its first outing." Two great riders side by side, and Corsa and Biaggi. And there's the handshake. And we might just see these three up there a few times this weekend. It bodes well for Phillip Island. That's coming up next. Biaggi's up for that. We heard when we spoke to him earlier in the weekend, Steve, didn't we? That, Max saying not really that happy about the test we did at Losail, but Phillip Island I'm comfortable with. So that bodes well.
Well, Max did go under the existing lap record and fastest ever lap at Phillip Island on the superbike in his test. So, considering that they've had no parts to bolt onto that bike, all they've done is just play with it over the 6 days. And him saying that he's comfortable, he's going to be one of the contenders there.
So then, that's the podium for the first World Superbike race. They've got to do it all again, though. As Maurizio Flamini watches on.
He's got a good right to be proud of this series now, because it's going to be strong. And some tracks there's going to be a lot of guys dicing for the lead. Some tracks I'm sure we're going to see some makes up the front.
Yeah, I agree. And, you know, we celebrated 20 years last year and we said how good it was. But, in fact, I'm just amazed at how much quality in terms of depth we've got this year. And 21, coming of age, if you like, as it is with us. But 21 years old, and I think, really, we are going to get probably the most stellar championship we've had in years. And I'm not just saying that out of hype, just looking at the field alone. And, I mean, you know, we talked to Carl Muggeridge, who was struggling to get in Super Pole. All right, he's got a new bike, and but he said he's never seen it as competitive.
Well, I mean, you've only got to look at the last row of the grid there. There's Shui Oyama, Laconi. That's on the last row of the grid.
Yeah, and Tamada,
do you know,
Grand Prix winner.
Laconi's been on pole position here. In 2005,
yeah.
Laconi was the pole position rider.
Yeah, I asked him about that, and he said, yes, that was a very different bike.